Hey, what's up guys? My name's Michael Westbrook. As always, thank you for watching. Today we're going to be talking about boost pedals, and more specifically a dirty or colored boost. I think that for my uses, I really like a boost that's not totally transparent, that has some color to it, maybe adds a little bit of grit to it. And today I'm going to show you how I use those and why I prefer them to just a regular clean boost. To demonstrate this, we're going to be taking a look at the Chandler Limited Germanium Drive and their Little Devil colored boost. Now, this isn't a pedal demo. You guys probably know, if you've seen some of my other videos, that I typically don't do just straight up pedal demos, that I like to kind of explore a subject or a topic when I'm checking out a pedal. And that goes for this video. We're going to be talking more about boost and less about the specifics of those two pedals. We're also going to potentially look at some other pedals as well that kind of demonstrate this idea. Before we get into it, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. I do a lot of content on guitar and guitar gear, as well as recording from a guitarist perspective. So I think there are lots of helpful tips and tricks that you'll find in my videos, whether it's on a piece of gear or a technique or whatever. So if that sounds like something that could be helpful for you, definitely subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. All right, let's get into it. Before we get into the specifics about how I use colored boost and why I think they're better than a clean boost, let's answer the question, what do I mean by that? What is a colored boost, or what is a dirty boost? Let's take a look at the Chandler Limited Germanium Drive. Even though the name of this pedal is the Germanium Drive, for most of the sweep of the drive knob, it stays pretty clean. And depending on how you have the feedback knob set, it stays clean for almost all of the sweep. But what we do get is a really colored sound. It imparts its own flavor, and especially as we start turning it up, we start getting a little more grit and more of that germanium flavor. We also have these switches that basically act as EQs that kind of boost certain frequencies more or less. When this pedal is set so that it's not necessarily overdriving, it's still imparting a really strong character. Just its own, slight EQ curve and its own sound to our signal. And that's what I mean by a dirty boost or a colored boost. It's not necessarily adding overdrive, it's just adding a specific EQ to the sound or just its own little flavor. Sometimes it can be hard to describe, but you definitely notice that your sound changes when you turn it on. Before we dive a little deeper, I do want to tell you guys that the Germanium Drive and the Little Devil are on loan from Vintage King. Vintage King reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to send you some gear to check out. Maybe it can give you something to do some content on your channel with. And I said, great, that's awesome. There's no obligation on my part. I'm not getting to keep anything. I have to send it back, but it gives me some cool stuff to check out and stuff to make videos on. So thank you, Kevin at Vintage King. I'm really looking forward to checking out lots of cool stuff and making some more videos for you guys to watch and enjoy and hopefully learn something. All right, let's get back into it. Don't get me wrong, there is a time and place to use just a perfectly clean boost. I myself have the RC booster on my pedal board. I have it last in my chain of overdrives just to give me a little volume boost when I need it or to hit the front of my amp harder. So it's not to say that clean boosts don't have their time and place, but for me, I love a boost that's not transparent, that adds a little color or adds a little EQ. One reason that I do this, or one reason that I use that kind of boost, is to maybe get my signal out in front a little differently than it would with a clean boost. A great example of this that's been used for years and years is using a tube screamer with the drive all the way down. We're not really adding a lot of overdrive with this, but we're just giving ourselves a volume boost and then adding that mid hump in there that allows our guitar to stick out a little more in front. By boosting certain frequencies, it lets our guitar be heard more easily because it's not blending in with everything else. Now, if you were to look at this on, an EQ curve, you would see a hump, right? That's what we call it. We call it a mid hump. And that's because those frequencies are accentuated and they are helping that part or that, those notes stick out more and be heard more easily. Now, there are a lot of different pedals that do this, whether it's a colored boost or an overdrive pedal that we're running the drive way down, and they all kind of have their own signature, their own sonic footprint. I love these types of pedals because it's an easy way to change up my tone. I can, not necessarily change the level of drive that I'm using, but it kind of puts the guitar in a different place in the sonic picture of the entire song, or especially when I'm layering parts or something like that. Just being able to have each guitar have its own sonic footprint is really helpful in layering parts. I'm going to be talking about this more in an upcoming course I'm working on that's all about layering parts and kind of my mindset about it. So be sure to look for that in the future. I'll go a little more in depth there about how I like to have each part with its own sound so that it kind of can be heard in, a lot of different parts all together. Another classic way that you've probably heard someone use a colored boost is Brian May from Queen. He is well known for using a treble booster into the front of cranked AC30s. And these treble boosters affect certain frequencies and they drive those amps in a very specific way. Typically they are germanium as well, similar to the Germanium Drive, and they just add this sonic character that you wouldn't get with a clean boost that is really a signature sound of his, and really nobody sounds like that, right? Nobody sounds like Brian May. The idea here, though, is to use a colored boost to drive the front end of our amp, just turning it up so that our amp is starting to overdrive even more when we hit that boost pedal, giving us the unique flavor of that pedal, but also doing something a little different because of how it interacts with a specific amp and its own unique overdrive. This is not something I would necessarily do into a really clean amp, like a pedal platform amp or something like this. I feel like a colored boost is best used with overdrive or something that's already breaking up some to drive it into even more overdrive. Then it feels natural, but also kind of gives us a unique EQ footprint or sonic sound. So I've got kind of a cool tone dialed up with the Little Devil, again with the Telly and the Matchless. But I wanted to say the Little Devil definitely has more overdrive and even distortion as you turn the gain up than the Germanium Drive. I actually maybe would have swapped the names as far as one being called a boost and one being called a drive because they're kind of opposite in that regard. But I have the gain set really low on the Little Devil, and it has this kind of mid-range thing that it's doing. It might be hard to hear in this clip, but it's just interacting with the amp in a really interesting way, adding this compression. When we're talking about these things, it can be hard to know, is that the amp being hit harder? Is that an element of the circuit and the pedal? It's just, it kind of blurs the lines and you don't know where where those qualities are coming from. But it's a cool sound, and I think this kind of demonstrates what a colored boost can do to the sound and how it changes it. I'm not giving it a ton of volume boost, so the amp's not being hit crazy hard or anything like that. It's just kind of changing the sound just a little bit and adding a little more grit and compression. Another way that people have been using this idea of a colored boost is to tighten up the low end of an overdrive sound. Essentially what's happening is they're using a boost or a light overdrive that has a little less bass than a full range boost would have. This essentially is giving them a louder signal, but because the low end isn't being boosted as much, it doesn't get flubby and it doesn't get muddy sounding, and it can just help firm things up as the amp is pushed more into overdrive. If you think about some of the really popular overdrive pedals or distortion pedals that have been around for a really long time, you'll find that most of them end up cutting out a little bass. Tube screamers, Rats do the same thing. And the reason why this works is because when they're used into an amp that's already overdriving, they're not boosting those bass frequencies as much. And so it helps them stay tight, but also gives them that volume boost and maybe a boost in the saturation of the amp that people want and the sound that people are going for when they go to boost their amps. They want more gain, more volume, more sustain, hopefully. And all of this is helped by that lack of low end that's found in some of these circuits. Those are some of the ways that I like to use colored boosts and why I think they're better than just a regular clean boost. Not only can they give you interesting EQ shifts and a way to boost your volume, but they're just more inspiring. They just bring a little something more to the table than just a plain volume boost. Especially when you're experimenting with different kinds of colored boost and different guitar and amp combinations, there's always magic to be found when you find the right combination. They can just all react and interact in a way that can be really special. And I find that for most clean boosts, you're not gonna find that. It's just gonna give you a volume boost. Maybe they're pushing your amp a little more and you're getting a little more overdrive from the amp, but colored boosts definitely have some magic when you find the right combo. That's going to do it for this video. Again, as always, thank you for watching. A big thanks to Vintage King for sending me the Chandler Limited pedals. It's been really fun checking them out, and I'm still going to keep spending some time with them because there's a lot of tones to be had, and they're just fun. They sound amazing. So anyways, again, thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you out there.